everyone, and welcome to Human Stories. My name is Wunpini Fatimata Mohammed. I'm an assistant professor of global media at the University of Georgia, and my research examines new media, social movements, and feminist media studies. Today, we are going to talk about transnational feminist organizing, and I'll be sharing my experiences in organizing and how that informs my research with regards to feminist organizing on digital media. And I'll also be talking about feminist politics in Africa, and also briefly cover digital media and feminist activism. But for today's conversation, our discussion will focus on a case study of feminist activism in Ghana that sort of used online digital tools. And so this talk specifically will focus on that. Now, when we talk about transnational feminist mobilization, I'm going to focus specifically on what has been going on in Africa, West Africa to be specific. So in the summer of 2020, there were protests across the US and even in other parts of the world after George Floyd was killed by a policeman. And so there were a lot of things that were done, across the world. And one of the things that happened in Ghana was Ghanaian organizers sort of standing in solidarity with BLM. And this is an example of how that happened. The Economic Fighters League organized something of a solidarity campaign where they stood in solidarity with Black people in America who were facing police brutality. And in Nigeria, more recently, the NSAS campaign, which addressed police brutality in Nigeria, also sort of brought attention to the way that feminist organizers were using digital media tools to sort of bring attention to the issue of police brutality in Nigeria. Now, when we talk about transnational feminist organizing, there are so many things that have been going on. And right now I'm going to talk about my own experiences doing this type of work. So in recent times, I've been involved in work with Silent Majority Ghana, where I've worked in the media section of the organization and in other, doing other things too. And what happened in February was that the offices of LGBT Rights Ghana, which is a queer rights organization in Ghana, was shut down by the state. And so it sort of prompted a lot of outrage from allies and LGBT people in the country, which went on for weeks. And there was a lot of institutionalized state violence that was directed at queer Ghanaians and the community. And so organizations like LGBT Rights Ghana, the Silent Majority Ghana, and Young Feminist Collective and Drama Queens and many other organizations sort of came together to work to address this issue. So I joined Silent Majority Ghana, which was from this year, to work to address issues affecting queer people in Ghana, which was prompted by this shutting down of the LGBT Rights Ghana offices. Now, what we did in that type of work was that we pulled our expertise in media and law, sociology, and policy to sort of do some sort of organizing work to shift behaviors and attitudes, and also sort of bring more nuanced narratives about queerness to the Ghanaian public sphere. And we also have worked or are planning to work with other East African feminist organizations or feminist groups and Black American feminists to build coalitions to sort of address this issue. And one of the things that we did as a group was to create healing spaces for trans and queer Ghanaians, for them to come and be in community with other people to begin some sort of healing. Now, with regards to my main findings in the research that I do, I'm just going to give an overview right now. So when we talk about feminist activism in Africa, it very often focuses on gender without necessarily attending to the way that various identity categories sort of intersect to produce the lived reality of marginalized people. So it focuses on gender without necessarily, for example, focusing on queer genders, or even focusing on the issues affecting LGBT people in the country, religious minorities on the continent, and various other marginalized groups like people with disabilities. And now when we talk about patriarchal oppression, or oppression from the patriarchy, it is more complicated than just gender. There are all of these identity categories that are produce various lived realities for the people who sort of embody these categories and that are influenced by the patriarchy. So we've also seen that there are some feminist groups that have worked to be inclusive. Others have also not really done very much work in the area. And a lot of the feminist activist work, specifically in Ghana, has centered the issues affecting middle-class women. And we've also seen some sort of co-opting of feminism to push capitalist ends. Now, I'm going to talk about this case study that I worked on. So in a few years ago, in 2017, I was part of a digital campaign which sought to get justice for Sadia, a young woman who was slut-shamed by a DJ in Tamale in the northern region of Ghana, and she was also threatened with revenge porn. So I reached out to Sadia to, provide my support, and she came to me and said that she wanted me to, support her in her fight for justice. So we started working together, and organically there were various individuals and groups of people who were interested in supporting Sadia because of the injustice that she experienced. And so we started doing work on Facebook to sort of bring attention to the issue. And so we employed various sort of online activist strategies like writing with Sadia by tagging her on our Facebook posts and showing the post to her to look at, and then also trying to recruit opinion leaders like nationally known journalists and other known members in the community to speak up and also to get people to support it. And then we also employed digital public shaming to shame the DJ for his behavior and to call out his behavior to get him to sort of apologize. And we also found that allyship with male members of the community was useful because it was an issue affecting a woman. It's ironic and it's funny, but getting men to also speak up on it sort of lended credibility to the work that we're doing. And as we did all of these things, employing these online tools, we also complemented our work with offline activism. So for example, Sadia decided to look at all the options that were available to her and then took action by getting DJ Tel arrested. He was later he later settled the issue out of court with Sadia, and things went back to normal. So these are the results of our activist work. So as we did this work to get justice for Sadia, who was very much an agentive participant in the campaign that we sort of ran, we ended up getting support from a professional organization that she was a part of, which released a statement. So she's a nurse, and so the Association of Nurses sort of released a statement in support of her. And then she went on to lodge a complaint at the police station which resulted in the arrest of DJ Tel. And then DJ Tel ended up issuing an apology on Facebook and on TV. And this was very, what happened with this specific issue with DJ Tel issuing an apology on Facebook and on TV was a huge win for feminist activism within this community, because very often we see people publicly say misogynistic and sexist things in our communities. Even politicians and public officials will say some of these things and never have to apologize for them. So to get DJ Tel to apologize both on the online platform and also on TV was a very big issue. And it also proved to people who probably who are misogynistic or who have these tendencies that if they went on to behave this way, there would be consequences. So what this can tell us about people today is that there were so many things involved in sort of like looking at the way this campaign unfolded in this digital space. So as we did the work on this digital platform, Facebook, we also understood that there were people who did not know what was going on Facebook and who needed to be in the loop. And so a lot of the issue was also reported or discussed on platforms like TV and also the radio. And so when we talk about the digital divide, we learned that there are certain people who are marginalized, who don't have access to phone data or smartphones or or laptops to participate in digital activism or digital organizing. And even if they do have access to that, it's not guaranteed that they speak the language of the internet, which is English in Ghana, or even other European languages that are used on these platforms. And it's also not guaranteed that they are able to navigate, how to use a laptop or how to use a smartphone, even if they know the language of these technologies on these platforms. And so it's also important for us to understand that this type of divide disproportionately affects women, especially in working class communities. And we need to do more work as African feminists to make sure that our work is accessible on platforms like radio, and also even meeting physically to make our feminist practices more accessible. And as we do this work, we have to center the most marginalized. So another thing that it can tell us about people today is that, for example, having to recruit opinion leaders and allies was important to this cause. And the reason why we needed opinion leaders to gain traction was because of what is called cultural capital, which examines the way that your positioning on the digital media hierarchy will present you strategically to be able to get engagement with the work that you do. And also what it tells us about people today is that it's important for us to not fall into the trap of thinking that the mere presence of technology automatically brings about some sort of change. It is how you use that technology that will bring about change, and also complementing digital technological work with or digital organizing work with work offline. So for example, in the case of Sadia, we did a lot of work, the digital publishing of Digital, speaking about the issue and all of that online. And then she took action offline by getting him arrested and subsequently getting an apology on Facebook and on TV. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching us today. And I also want to shout out Silent Majority Ghana and LGBT Rights Ghana for the amazing work that they're doing in the Ghanaian feminist space. And you please remember to check out the blog for more stories. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Peace and light to you and yours. So I sometimes do this and do